Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Mark Henry. I'm a senior engineer with Opmantek's North American Support Office located in Charlotte, North Carolina. Today we're going to be talking about the Network Manager's Guide to Reporting in Network Monitoring Solutions. Just a bit of light housekeeping for everybody on the line today. We do have a full house here in GoToWebinar, so all the attendees are going to be on mute during the presentation, just to cut down on background noise. If you have a question, feel free to type it into the GoToWebinar questions panel. I do have a couple of associates here monitoring that with me. We'll be happy to bubble those up and answer those during the presentation. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so if you prefer to hold your questions till then, that's fine. I don't mind this being a bit more interactive than just a one-way conversation. So if you want to ask in the questions panel, that's fine. If you'd rather hold it till the end, that's good too. We are recording this session. That way we can make it available to everyone later. It will be available both on YouTube and on the opmantek.com website inside our blog under the Learn link at the top of the screen. So topics for today. So we're going to talk about reports that are useful for troubleshooting, system improvement, and trending. Again, the focus is going to be on network management, also on lines of business, so internal and external customers, people who are actually consuming the services that the networking and server teams provide to the business. We're going to talk about how to develop focused, targeted reports. We're going to be taking a look at several reports that are available in the Opmantek product line, including the reports that are built into NMIS, our core performance and fault monitoring solution, as well as reports that come out of Opie Events, our senior level event management solution, and of course, Opie Reports, which is Opmantek's reporting solution. We're also going to talk about how to use automated reports to help reduce call center overhead. And that's really about being proactive on both the troubleshooting and performance improvement side, but also in communicating with, again, those lines of business or those internal or external customers that your NOC services. So without further ado, let's get to it. So why focus on reporting? From Opmantek's position, we actually separate the concept of live interactive systems like our dashboarding tool, Opie Charts, and the concept of having live dashboards that you would view in real time with the current performance metrics of those devices being displayed from a more static reporting standpoint. So today we're going to talk about that static reporting piece, and from that standpoint, how does that fit into the ITSM, the IT Service Management Maturity Model, and also ITIL. So if you're looking at kind of the maturity model, the ITSM maturity model, reports should really help bring you up and out of level 0 and 1, which is where we see many of our prospects that we start talking to, and help you move forward solidly into a level 2, level 3. And depending on how you employ the reports and what you do with the data that's contained within it, it can actually help propel your organization solidly into a level 3 and heading into a level 4 standpoint. And what that means for you is as you move upwards in this kind of slope in the maturity model, you see an increase in network and application performance. And of course, that results in a higher value to the organization. So again today, looking at Opmantek's solutions, overall pieces, at the core, at the middle of that wheel, kind of the hub of the wheel, you have NMIS, Network Monitoring Information Systems. That's our core performance and fault monitoring solution. And then connected in the next ring outward of that are the commercially licensed solutions that interact with that and that bolt seamlessly on top of it. And so we're going to be looking at NMIS, we're going to be looking at Opie Events, and we're going to be looking at Opie Reports in detail today. So let's drill into it. Let's talk about some of the reports and how they're used and what they look like. So NMIS is Opmantek's free and open source network monitoring solution. It is the core piece that does all of your device management, your inventory. It handles all of your SNMP, WMI, processing of SNMP traps. It handles all of your scheduling of polling. It also does all of your service collection as well. Handling all of those pieces, it does all of your thresholding. It also has a very well-built escalation and notification system for event handling. And it does have some very, very useful reports built into NMIS. So let's take a moment. I'm going to switch over. We'll take a look at NMIS. So this is the default dashboard for NMIS. You can, of course, there are many other panels or widgets, as we refer to them, that you can open, you can position on screen. You can actually save your screen positions of these. That way you can come back and have a custom dashboard later. But I'm just going to close out some of these widgets so we have some clear area to work with. And then we're going to take a look at a few different reports. So of course we have the reports menu, and you can select either current or history. You'll notice that the selection of reports are the same on both of these. The biggest difference is that history gives you a window of time, so you can look back at last week, last month, last year, last quarter, etc. Whereas current is looking at either, depending on which report you have, either right now, as in the last 15 minutes, or within a defined period of window that makes sense for the report itself. So let's take a look at reports current top 10. For those of you who are just joining us, we do have a copy of today's presentation in PDF format. It's available in the handouts pane in the GoToWebinar window. If you're watching this recording on our website or on YouTube, you should be able to download a copy of this, the presentation with the links and all of the menu selections in it directly from Opmantek's website, again, under our blog or under the Learn section if you go to the menu at the top of the screen. So we're taking a look at the reports current top 10 listing. The concept here being that we're focusing in on the top 10 for things like response time, ping loss, CPU load, and now this is focused on routers only, and then processor memory used, again, routers only, IO memory used on routers only, interfaces by percent utilization, both received and transmit, interfaces by traffic, and then we break down errors and discards as well, and then down interfaces. You'll notice that this information is all displayed on the screen. Some of these reports, you can export some of this information to CSV. You can't this report. Let's take a look at another one. We're going to take a look at network performance. So rather than the reports menu, we're shifting over to network performance, and we're going to look at top 10 here. So these two lists are related, but they are slightly different. So the under reports current top 10, you get more of a breakdown by a specific window of time. This one's looking at the, it looks like the last about 15 minutes of time today. And we're breaking out, we're not focusing in so much on routers and specific types of equipment. We're focusing more on everything that's in the database, but much the same types of information that's here. Taking a look at another option that we have here under Service Desk, Alerts, Events. So these are all of the currently open events, all the unacknowledged or active events that are in the system. It's important to keep in mind that many events in NMIS are stateful. So for example, a node down. If communication with the device it ceases for some reason, that device then goes into a node down state. That generates an event, an alert to people. The escalation system starts. Once communication with that device comes back up, we now receive a node up event. That node up cancels the node down, so it's a stateful event. It's like a light switch. It's either on or it's off. But there are many other events which are not stateful. Once the light switch goes up, it never comes back down. Someone has to physically acknowledge that event. So this report Again, it's a screen-only report, so you can't export this out. But this gives you the opportunity to scroll through. Everything's color-coded as far as the priority of the event, the level of that event. So, for example, this one here for BNE Lab R1 in red is a fatal event, so it's displayed with that red background color that you see. Then you see ones here, warning, are in yellow, minor is in kind of a gold, major is in an orange. So you can scroll through these, and of course you can acknowledge these events as well. So you can acknowledge them all for specific devices and manage your events as you would through any system. As I scroll down through the hundreds of events that are here and acknowledge those events and close those out. All right, so let's take a look at a couple events that are more related to how you're collecting information. Again, this is all in NMIS still. So we're taking a look at reports, current, and then we're taking a look at collect update time. So depending on the size of your system, this can actually take anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute or so, especially if you have 2,500, 3,000 devices on your system. It could take a little bit of time for the system to be able to poll everything. These columns here between collect time and update time are sortable. So I can sort collect time, for example, and get these into a list. The way I use this is I take a look at the top 5 or 6 or so, and then I try to remediate. Why does it take so long for these things to do a regular collection? And I would do the same thing for update time. So I would sort on update time, and then want to be able to take a look and say, why is it taking so long for these devices to do a full system update? Is it just lag time? Is it speed of light between my polling server and these devices? Are the devices overloaded? Are they short on memory? Are they short on CPU? Are they working hard? And I'd also take a look and see what's happening on if it was a switch or a router. Are they having issues with dropped packets, errors and omissions, those types of issues? All right, the next report from NMIS we're going to take a look at is system configuration check. So I'm going to system configuration check, and then node admin summary. Now this one gives you a list of all the devices in the system. Up in the top left, I'm going to click only exceptions. I only want to see a list of things that are busted. So these are devices in my system that have problems with them. You can see that they're all highlighted. It might be the last collection poll was too old. It might be the last update happened too long ago. It might be that SNMP isn't working, or the community string is not set to something that it should be set to, or the model that NMIS is using to poll the device isn't optimum. So, for example, this default model up here for BNE Lab CE1, I should look into that and understand why this isn't using the Cisco iOS model. So this one is more of a not so much reporting for other people, but really reporting for my engineers and giving them a driving factor to improve the quality of the information that NMIS is collecting. And the last one we're going to look at in NMIS is going to be system, host diagnostics, NMIS runtime graph. Again, for those of you who are just coming in late, there is a PDF version of this handout in the handouts pane in the GoToWebinar window. So what this graph is telling me is it actually gives me a breakdown of the total amount of time it takes for an NMIS polling cycle to run, and also for a collection cycle to run. So what that means for us really is how long is it taking for NMIS to do its job every cycle. So for example, right now we're configured primarily for 5-minute polling. So for most of our devices, we're running a collection cycle once every 5 minutes. I want to know how long that takes beginning to end for all the devices in the system. I want to make sure that my collection cycles aren't running over each other. So if my collection cycles are taking longer than the period in between it, So if it was taking longer than 5 minutes for me to collect on everything, I would be starting my next polling cycle before my first one was complete. That wouldn't be good. We'd need to understand why. We'd need to see what we can do, whether that's more RAM, more CPU cycles, more NMIS processes running, in multi-threaded mode, and take a look and see what can be done there. So you'll note that there's a host of reports built into the system. I strongly recommend that once you spin up NMIS and you add some devices to it, and it's been collecting for a good 3, 5, 8 days or so, start opening these reports. Start with reports current. Take a look at all 7 of these reports. See what makes sense to you. See what information is there for you. There's a lot of good information that's here that can really drive your ability to not just improve the collection of performance data from your system, but also use that information to help drive remediation of things that are happening across your network. And then, of course, there are additional tools under network performance, and again, also under system and configuration check, and also host diagnostics. So we started the concept of reporting by talking about the core pieces that are available in NMIS, which again is Opmantek's free and open source network monitoring solution, and also the core, the hub of all of Opmantek's solutions. So a plugin module to NMIS is Opie Events. Opie Events expands upon NMIS's built-in performance and kind of event escalation system, adding an advanced fault management, operational automation. It does all kinds of cool stuff, from handling event storms, event flaps, the ability to manage events, to merge events together. And then, of course, there's also a tremendous amount of power in the way that Opie Events can help provide reports that guide you to improve the quality of the performance of your overall network. So one of the first things you do is, if you're looking to evaluate Opie Events, or if you've already licensed Opie Events and you've installed it, one of the first things you should do is go into the opcommon.nmis, which is the main configuration file for all of Opmantek's modules. Search for the Opie Events section of that file, and in there's a subsection just for configuring these reports. And you can configure Opie Events to generate reports on a daily, a weekly, and a monthly cadence. You can provide custom names for those reports, and then you can also provide email addresses to send those reports to. So as they're produced, not only will they be stored locally and available through the interface, and I'll show you that in a moment, but they can be generated and then emailed out to your email list. So you get access to those reports by selecting Views, Summary Reports from the menu. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to switch from NMIS now over to Opie Events and sign in. So this is the main dashboard for Opie Events. You can see in the top left, we have a nice pie chart of all the events by device or node. In Opmantek, we use the term node and device interchangeably. It means the same thing. And then on the right, you'll see this is also an events by node, but this is broken out by time. And the time window is controlled by this drop down in the top right-hand corner of the screen. So I can change the periodicity for the entire windows. For example, if we wanted to slow down to just 15 minutes. And the periods that are designed here, that's listed here, these are all defined actually in that opcommon.nmist file as well. So you can control the periods by product in that file so that you can control how big a window someone looks at. The reason you would want to do that is if you broke everything down, if you had a very large system generating a lot of events, and I went out to something like 90 days, you might be looking at tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of events trying to populate the screen. And because this is a web application, depending on the load on the server and the connection time between your browser and the server, you might end up actually timing out either Apache or the MongoDB backend, depending on how many pieces you're trying to retrieve back. So let's take a look at the reports that come out of here. So that's Views, Summary Reports. And this menu that you get, this will show both the daily, weekly, and monthly reports. So you can see down here at the bottom we have a weekly summary report that came out at the end of the week. So I'm just going to select yesterday's report. Very nicely laid out. This is completely interactive. If you click on any of the node names, you'll actually drill into that device itself. You can drill into the events from that device. You can see what those look like. I actually prefer coming to this screen and seeing this view myself, just for a workflow standpoint. You can actually have this report emailed out in a couple of different formats. Primarily, that's going to be interactive HTML. As long as your computer has connectivity to the reporting server, the server where Opie Reports, or rather Opie Events is located, that interactive HTML will still link you there, and it'll open up a browser window and you can take a look at that. So you still get that kind of rich feeling, again, as long as you have connectivity between the machine you're using to view the report and the server where, in this case, Opie Events is running. A little menu down the right-hand side up here. A key piece that I find really, really useful is the top 10 nodes and events by event summary. I'm sorry about that. I was distracted there. So you'll see that we have breakdowns here: top 10 nodes by event count, top 10 events by count, event priorities by count, top 10 nodes and events by event count. So this is the one that I really use as a keying piece as a network engineer myself. What I generally do is we advocate very strongly in our training classes. So for clients who are picking up NMIS and OP events, we do offer on-site or remote training classes. We also, of course, have a very well-written wiki with lots of good information on it, and lots of these types of webinars as well are available to you free of charge. So use the resources you have. But one of the things we really strongly recommend is for the first 30 days, focus on interpreting this report on a day-by-day basis, and just remediate the top 3 events every single day. So if you had an engineer working and saying, looking at these top 3 events, and 2 of these are coming from the Charlotte server, so high number of system processes, and actually it's really just one event, really, because the other 2 ones are, this is a closing event, that's a closing event. So really the ones you want to look at would be perhaps this one off the Mexico server, and this one off of Thor as well. But it would be to remediate those events, to actually put someone on understanding what's happening, why are so many system processes opening and running, do we need to change the thresholding for those devices, is that normal? Do we have too much load on those servers? Do we need to add more resources, or do we need to spread the load across multiple servers? What needs to be done there? But this is a key report for engineering teams. It's something that I like to drive as an engineering process on a day-by-day basis. And if you do that every day, if you address the top 3 events that are happening across your network every single day for a month, and a month, if you're just looking at Monday through Friday, has anywhere from 19 to 21 working days. But if you do that every day for a month, I'm telling you, you can actually improve the quality of your network experience by 50%, just looking at that one piece. Another key information piece in here that I find very useful are the top 10 nodes by event weight. Now, the way we do event weight is we take the an event and we multiply it, or the number of events, or a number of times that an event occurs, and we multiply it by the priority of the event. And so what you're really looking at is you're looking for any event that has a very high differential between the event number of events and the weight. So this one here on the far left, that would be my first one to look at and want to address. You're looking for that difference, that delta between the event count and the event weight. The higher that is, the more important those events are. So I would also prioritize and address these as well. Lots of good pieces in here for management. Events by incident duration. So how long have these events been going on? So for example, you have ones here from Midgard that have been running for 1 day, 13 hours, 53 minutes at this point. And then vRouter host, 22 hours. So you'd want to understand what those events are and why they're not clearing. So you can continue going down. You can see here that someone's gone in and actually generated a custom event. So you can do synthetic event creation as well. So they've created an event called Very Sick Node and posted that through the system as well. And then event summary. So when are events occurring? What times a day? And this can be great for event correlation when you're trying to understand load on your network and how that may impact your overall system. And then looking also at incident summaries for those same time periods. So you can see the number of incidents here versus the number of events and how those are lining up here, the 2 o'clock, the 10 o'clock, and work towards those pieces. Next on our list is to take a look at Opie Reports itself. So Opie Reports is a detailed operational and executive level reporting system. It's designed not only to generate reports that engineers can use directly to help, whether it's with troubleshooting or remediating issues in the network. It can be used for improving the quality and responsiveness of the network itself. It can also be used to help drive your vendor partners. So if you're looking at the SLAs of your ISP, trying to make sure that your internet circuits are working properly, there are reports for that kind of stuff as well. So Opie Reports has over 18 classes of reports built in. There are many ways to customize each selection depending on the report that you have, whether that's picking which devices you want to report on, which groups, which locations, which customers, how you want to organize a report. It's been designed specifically so you don't have to know SQL, you don't have to learn a reporting language like you might with something like Crystal Reports. Everything's done through a GUI interface. What that means, of course, is that it can be very, very easy to generate a very rich report. And at the same time, it can be frustrating if you want to create something extremely specific or unique, which isn't covered by the GUI. And there are ways to do that. We're going to touch on them really briefly today, but we're not going to get into depth. But just at a very high level, all of the data in NMIS can be accessed via either an Opie Charts API by querying the data stored in the RRD files in NMIS, or by querying the MongoDB. And all of our products actually ship with examples as well on how to create reports from the command line. So let's shift over and take a look at Opie Reports. All right. So I'd mentioned that there were 18 different available report types. So those are all broken out in the list that are here. What you're seeing in the list is the name of the available report. There's a quick breakdown and description of it. On the right-hand side of each of these rows, you'll have a breakdown on if there are any scheduled reports. So a scheduled report is something that happens on some kind of a timed cadence. It could be a report is run daily. It might be a report is run once a week, once a month, every quarter, every year. So whatever kind of cadence you want to have, you can create reports on something shorter than a day if you wanted to. And then you also have the ability to create a node. So you can hit create node. So for example, I might come down here and say create health report, and it'll give me a create on demand screen. I can expand the advanced options. We have a lot of options that are here. So we have the ability to provide a report description. We can pick the report type. Now it's already pre-picked node health report because that's the report that I selected. You can pick which nodes, and there's lots of different ways to define a node. And it can be anywhere from everything to something that meets a regular expression to by NMIS defined groups. You can pick from node lists. So there's lots of different options that are here. You can pick your times, and there's an entire wiki page on how the date and time windows work and how to use them to select your times. You can pick the formats that your information is going to come out in. So we can actually do HTML. So again, interactive HTML, CSV, and Excel. You can give the report a custom name. You can also pick things like what kind of a node name to display. Are you going to use a plain node name, or you're going to use the display node name? How do you want to display the interface? By the interface description or the interface display name? You can include embedded graphics on many types of reports. You can give it a custom report title to be displayed. You can do exception reports. You can do different types of WAN reporting information. You can set thresholds. You can show utilizations. So there's all kinds of pieces that are here. Not every one of these options applies to every type of report. So this wizard is really fast and it's neat, but we do recommend that you open and review the related wiki pages for each of the reports, because it lists in detail which of these parameters apply to which types of reports. So let's just take a look at a saved health report. So I actually have a scheduled report. We've got 14 days of saved reports here. And you can actually pick and choose how long Opie Reports will save an individual report for. So for example, if you're doing a daily report, you might want to only have the last 30 or 45 days. We do have some clients who use reporting for, say, their SOC 1 or SOC 2 exams, and they want to be able to save them for at least a year. So, they might put in something like 400 or 600 days of reports, whatever it takes, however you want to do it. You can store them indefinitely in the system. It's really only limited by the amount of storage that you have available to you. So looking at the node health report, you can see that we have a fairly straightforward layout. All the columns are predefined in the system. You can't customize them directly. These are defined in JSON files within the Opie Reports system, which you could edit if you wanted to, although I don't recommend it. There isn't a GUI for that. You'd have to hand edit them and then make sure that they work correctly and produce the desired outcome. But you can see here that we've created a repeating report. This one happens to be for all devices in the system. So it's actually using the NMIS groups metadata tag as kind of the sub heading for each section. So we're breaking out groups of devices, and then we're actually breaking down and drilling into each of those pieces. And so, for example, within branches, we have Surfers Paradise, we have devices there, and we have USA West Coast. And then in the group Brisbane, we have some devices from Surfers Paradise. In the group Charlotte, we have USA East Coast, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all completely definable by you, how you want to define your metadata tags, how you want to assign those tags to devices, and then the reports consume those metadata tags and use that information to help drive the layout and grouping of the report. You can also see here that in this report, we provide some visual cues. So you've got these red highlighted pieces under status that help tell you and help prioritize your time. So it's going to go red, orange, yellow, and green. And then, of course, over on the right-hand side, you'll see that we include conditions and actions. So what are the things that are happening and what should you do about it? Let's take a look at another report. We're going to stop in here at the node availability piece. Many people refer to this actually as the SLA report. You'll notice here that we break down devices. We provide their availability, their downtime, packet loss, how much of a percentage of time no data was available from the report or from the device, its total uptime within that reporting period, any downtime during that reporting period, and the amount of time when no data was available from that report. Now, for example, we've got availability at 100%. It saw no data at 0.05% of the time, which equated to about 5 minutes, which is just one polling cycle where perhaps this device didn't respond for a polling cycle. And you had a small bit of time there where you couldn't validate or verify that data was moving through the system. Let's scroll down and take a look at something with a little bit more loss. Here we go. Here's one now where we're seeing 99.95% uptime, 0.05% down. We've got a total of 5 minutes of data loss as well. And you've got the total uptime, 6 days, 23 hours, and 55 minutes. So this is actually a 7-day report. It's a weekly report. So we're seeing within that 1 week, we had 5 minutes of downtime. And again, that could simply be the concept that for one polling cycle, data was not available for that device. An interesting difference is that there's a bit more information about downtime. There's also the the availability in the downtime is just not there. So this could simply be for Asgard, it might have been an SNMP down, whereas for this BNE lab switch, it may simply be that it was a node down during one polling cycle. So there's a slight different weighting factor being given between those two devices and that 0.05% of node data being available. Let's take a look at a WAN usage report. So this one's looking at the actual devices and circuits for your WAN system. Again, you'll notice that we're color coding these. We do an awful lot of work specifically in designing reporting systems that are actionable. The last thing we want to do is flood someone's email box with reports that are either deleted on receipt or worse, where people write filters and have them filed away in folders and never look at the reports. The concept here really is to generate reports that drive action. Reports that are valuable to the team in improving either the quality of the system or reducing the amount of tickets coming into the NOC center. So for example, again, you'll see here we use a lot of color coding under status. We provide you a list of conditions. In this case, router has very low interface availability. WAN link has acceptable utilization. And then under actions, investigate device and carrier for interface problems. So the WAN utilization is okay, but very low interface availability, drives the question. And if we scroll through, you'll see we have a few more. Router has very low interface availability again on Otter. And then you can go through and you can look at which descriptions, which interfaces are having the issues. And finally, for a quick check, let's scroll down. We're going to take a look at a traffic usage report. So now this one just happens to break down traffic along each device and each device's interface. So you get the interface name, you get the interface description, you get the traffic in and out in gigabytes, the traffic in plus out in gigabytes, so that's just a sum, and then the period of time that the report covers. And again, this is just a quick touch on the different reports. If you're using NMIS now, or you're looking at improving the quality of reports in your network monitoring solution, take a look at NMIS. Add a couple of devices to it. You can get a free 20 device license to Opie Reports. So add a handful of devices to NMIS, let it collect on those devices, and then open up Opie Reports and take a look at some of these. Take a look at the reports. Open up the Create Node Report just by hitting the blue buttons here, and take a look at that that breakdown. See what you can do. Run a handful of reports, see how they work, play with them, give us some feedback. Tell us what you're looking for. Let us know what worked for you and what helped you out. So getting a bit more into actually customizing the reports that are coming out of the system. So we've touched on this create on-demand report, right? This this pop-up piece. And you actually have a very much a similar organization for scheduling a report. The only difference is when you schedule a report, it asks you for an email address to send the report to. That's really the only difference. Engineers, all of us, whether we're working engineers or engineering managers like myself, we love to know what kind of knobs and switches are available to be able to push and pull and change things, customize them, whether it's for ourselves or whether for our customers. Generally, again, we touched on the concept of being able to adjust things like the provide a report description, be able to select different types of devices, right? So do you want all devices? Do you want all devices within a specific group? Do you want all devices at a specific location? Do you want to use a regex command to pick devices? Do you want to pick from the if description or the name of the device? Do you want to provide a text file with a list of all the devices in it? Would you rather provide a text file with a list of all the devices and their interfaces to collect? So lots and lots of opportunity that's there. You can, again, provide a custom report name if you don't like the plain naming convention that's used in our system now. You can also pick how things are going to be displayed, from the name of the device to the which type of interface. You're going to use the interface's name or its description in the report. Do you want to include custom graphs, custom report titles? You can do different types of utilization as well. So do you want to set an alarm level for 80%, for 90%, for 95%? Do you only want to create a report that exceeds that, right? So you can actually set a utilization threshold and say, look, I don't want to see every interface in my system. I only want to see ones that exceed 80% of its capacity. And you can even adjust for how long it has to exceed that percentage. So in this case, 80% for over 1 minute. Again, anytime during that reporting period. And you can even pick authorized viewers. So who can look at this report? Because anytime a report is created, it'll be available in the Opie Reports interface. And so you can actually pick and choose users with specific user credentials. So very, very flexible system. Allows you a lot of flexibility, a lot of different places to go. And so what do you use that information for? Now you've got all this power, right? And power, what's Marvel's saying? Power without guidance is folly. So looking at automating report creation. So not just creating reports on demand, and the system has just some great information in it, and whether that's device polling configuration, whether that's state of a device at a given moment, whether that's creating WAN reports or interface usage. Everyone wants to create reports on some kind of a cadence in most cases. They want to create daily reports, weekly reports, monthly reports, whether that's for the engineering team, whether that's for the engineering management, whether that's for senior management, or even your customers, the lines of business that you're serving. So there's really 5 things that I like to focus on, and I like to really give consideration to before I generate any kind of an automated report, something that's going to be emailed out on some kind of a cadence. My first goal personally is I want to avoid filling email boxes, because as soon as you start generating a report that shows up in someone's inbox every day that they don't know what to do with, their first instinct is to delete it. Once that gets old, their next instinct is going to be to create a filter, and that filter might take that report and shove it away into a folder, or that filter might simply delete the report. At the end of the day, if it's not being used, that person probably shouldn't be getting it, right? That report can always be saved and put into a subfolder somewhere. It doesn't have to be emailed. It can be put into a folder where people can see it. It can be left available in the Opie Reports GUI where someone can go in and then scroll through that list of available reports and say, I want to know what WAN usage was back in January. Let me look at that now. That doesn't necessarily have to be emailed to somebody. So give that some consideration. Anytime you're going to generate something on a cadence and send it to someone, it should have a targeted user and purpose. The people who are receiving it, there has to be a real purpose behind it. What are they going to be using it for? Otherwise, again, save the report off to a directory. Let everyone know where it is. Let everyone know where it's available from, but don't spam their email boxes. Point number 3 I like to consider: reports should drive thought and action. Meaning this: if I get a report in my inbox, if I'm going to open it and review it, it should be something that drives me to improve the quality of life for somebody. Whether that's the quality of life for my engineering team, right? So reducing the amount of inbound help desk tickets, reducing the number of calls to the call center, improving the performance or reliability of the network, improving VoIP performance across the VoIP network at my organization. It needs to drive thought and action. It needs to be something that tells someone what's wrong and what they need to do, or at least point them in the right direction, that there's a problem and then they need to go there and address that thing. Again, it's all about remediation and proactive addressing issues. Those reports need to be created on a cadence where users can absorb and take action. I've seen too often organizations that generate reports on a daily basis that really should be done either weekly or monthly, and in some cases, even just quarterly. And that's really driven by how often can someone look at that report and cut out an hour of their day to do something about it. So if you're talking about a member of management who is stressed for time, who, it would be difficult for them to find a half hour every day or even 20 minutes every day to absorb the information in a report, you might want to make that once a week or even monthly. And then you may even want to focus that report on just things that are outside of acceptable boundaries, right? You might want it to be an exceptions report rather than a report of everything. That way, when that person gets the report and they open it, they're only seeing the things they have to do something about, right? And that way, again, you're respecting their time, you're respecting their effort, and you're focusing yourself in on providing a kind of a key component that really drives their ability to help improve, their life and the lives of the users in the lines of business that use your systems. The last thing I'll mention here on this piece is, rather than providing lists of individuals to send the emails to, we really strongly recommend creating email lists and then managing the membership centrally. All of Opmantek products, in many cases, you can provide a comma-separated list of individual emails. What happens, of course, is people change roles, they leave, they move on to other jobs, other opportunities, new members come in, maybe those email lists aren't updated. So create central lists rather than individual emails. So how often should reports be created and who should get them? So this is actually it's always open for debate. If I was spinning up a system from scratch at an organization, this is where I would start. I would start with this organization. On a daily basis, I would generate an event summary out of OP events. That would go to at least one of my engineers who would be tasked with the job of remediating those events. I would generate a device health report on a daily basis. That's going to come out of OP Reports. Again, that's going to be part of that engineer's job in remediating the quality of the network. And I'm also going to pull out a response report. That's going to go, again, to that same engineer or engineering team who are pushing the remediation efforts. And that goes back to that concept of having almost what I would call a tiger team dedicated to improving the quality of the network experience for everyone. And that's not just the networking equipment, that's the servers, that's the applications that are running on those servers. Those are the business services that those applications are supporting throughout the organization. And that team's efforts would be set on a daily basis that have time carved out of their schedule every single day, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on the nature and the quality of the network at the time that this starts. And if you focus that team on those efforts for a month, for 30 days, for a 30-day window, again, I'm telling you, you will see a profound improvement in user satisfaction, in response time, in upkeep, in overall performance, and a tremendous reduction in the amount of tickets coming into the NOC site. On a weekly cadence, I would set up a series of events to talk about node availability. So that is the uptime, again, the SLA of the devices that are being monitored. That report would go to the network managers, the people who are actually managing the network engineers and the server engineers. That report would also go to the lines of business, the actual customers. So if you're a managed service provider, that report might go to your customers. If you're providing services internally to your company, your business, that might break up into lines of business. And the concept there is to say you're providing a service, you're providing an SLA, and this is how the equipment is working and meeting those times. The next piece, configuration summary. Now that would go to the network managers. Configuration summary is all about the actual collection and polling of things from performance to services to SNMP trap handling to syslog parsing. That's all going to come out on configuration summary. That would go to the network managers. And then the network managers would use that to drive a discussion with the lines of business, or if it's an MSP, with their outside customer. So it's not something I would provide to the customer. It's something that they really can't interpret, but it's something that the network managers would understand. So it's all the knobs and switches for the performance monitoring system driving that conversation with your customer, the people who are consuming the services that you're providing. On a monthly basis, we talk about providing a WAN report. You'd want to send that to whoever is managing your telecom circuits. So sometimes that's the networking team. Other times that's somebody in procurement who might be doing it. You might have a dedicated telecom group that's managing that, but you'd want to create a WAN report that talks about those. And again, that could go to the telecom managers. The networking managers may want to get that as well. But really, the telecom team should be using that WAN report to drive SLA discussions with the providers of those circuits. Also on a monthly basis, you might want to do Cisco quality of service or Juniper COS reports. Those would want to go to the network managers. You want to know how well you're actually shaping the traffic along your network. Are things being prioritized properly? Are all of those different prioritizations being adhered to? Is the traffic falling into those buckets the way you intend them? And of course, that helps drive a discussion between the network management team and the network architects and even the line of business to some extent. And a third report that we recommend would be the interface capacity report, and that should go to the network manager and again help drive discussions with lines of business. Right. So what services, what applications are eating up your interface bandwidth? Right. What's taking the load? What times a day? What applications? Which users are using an inordinate amount of traffic across the network? So this is my starting point. Yours might be different. You might add to this. You might create additional reports. You might create multiple versions of each report for different lines of business, for different consumers within your organizations. But the concept is to start somewhere and start with reports that, again, drive action, that drive someone to actually say, okay, there's something wrong here. I need to address it. What do I need to look into? I know which devices, I know what's happening, I know what times of day, I know which locations, and then I can actually start working on that to improve the quality of that one device and how it operates within the network in an overall remediation effort to improve the quality of life for everybody. All right, everyone. Thank you all very much for your time today. This concludes today's presentation on reporting for your network management team. So I'm going to turn off reporting now, and I'm going to open the floor for discussion.